Hi everyone, I'm Maddie from CSR. Welcome to CSR Soapbox. I'm here with my lovely client Dionne Fuller from Optyma. Dionne, did you want to just introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, my name is Dionne Fuller and I'm the HR advisor at Optyma Security.
Lovely. So obviously we're just going to ask some questions of kind of what's going on with the HR and just in general about HR. I know you've had a lot of experience in HR over a couple of years, but you didn't start out in HR, did you? You was in the industry, in the the police side of the industry, wasn't you?
Yeah, so I originally joined the Met Police in 1990 and worked for what was called the Criminal Justice Unit. And then whilst I was there for maybe a couple of years, had a real passion for wanting to work more closely with people. So then I moved into HR. And then most of my career with the Met over those 23 years was working as a HR generalist manager in most of South London boroughs. So yeah.
So you've done the HR side in the police as well, right? Yeah. Okay, right. I thought it was a completely different industry.
So yeah. Obviously looking after different people, because obviously you're looking after police and police staff, much bigger than some security companies. So obviously Optyma, we've just got over 70 staff, and the last borough that I worked on, there was 1,200, so quite varied in numbers.
I bet that was very challenging, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was different. I think with the Met you get lots of structure, lots of process, standards and policies. And moving here, which was sort of a bit out of the blue, coming to a place where they had no HR, it was quite good because you could then make it your own, put your systems in place, make sure there were standards, just making sure everything was up to date and that we were fit for purpose, really.
And obviously I know you do HR, but how important do you think HR is within a company? I know it's got bigger within the last 10 years or so, especially in the security and fire industry, because before it was kind of a bit slapdash, wasn't it?
I mean, I guess it is interesting when you come from somewhere that was so structured and you had standards, processes and policy to work to come into somewhere where they didn't do those, and maybe then the staff, the engineering staff, didn't really what couldn't do, making sure you have to do your contracts of employment, which is, they did have it. They didn't have policies or processes to follow anything up. And I think what it meant then is some of the managers realised about their responsibilities into their team.
Yeah. And obviously going on from this, obviously with the managers within the industry and in general managers, how do you find putting the HR practices and policies and just general HR into their job role? Do they find it hard initially, or is it something that they kind of take to? Obviously it probably depends on their character as well, doesn't it?
I think so. I think it is something they've struggled with, if I'm honest, but I think that's not through their fault of their own. It's through the company, maybe when they say they're a manager, not realizing that part of that management is the people management. So in terms of if someone's off sick, as an example, that when they return, you do a return to work interview, that you're doing an annual appraisal, because I think everything around a person they associated with HR, so they didn't have to do it. So it's obviously changing their mindset.
It's paperwork as well. People don't like paperwork.
No, but also you had to reassess their management skills, so that whilst they might have been a good manager to do with a project to do with security, they needed to be a good manager in terms of their people management. So they needed to make sure that their people were trained. They needed to make sure they did their return to work interview. They were very reluctant to do disciplinary, the fear factor, because they weren't sure what they should do, what they should say. And obviously my role as the advisor is for them to come and talk to me. I can then talk them through the process and make sure they've got the skills they need, equipping them with the skills they need to go and then do that discipline. And I think the more you do it, the more confident you get doing it. If you haven't done it, it is scary.
No, I think people think discipline, they hear the word disciplinary and they're like, oh my God, what have I got to do?
Conversation like you and I are having.
But it's just documented.
Then go in being really strict, and then maybe they want to talk to that person for 2 days. No, it's not that. Why you're there, what the discipline is about, making sure you go through the facts and go through the process. And you just learn, and that's how you learn with your people skills, by following your process, following your guidance, and you won't go far wrong.
And in terms of obviously at the moment I think everyone's having this problem, but just because obviously there's quite a lot of jobs out there at the moment. But how do you as a company and yourself manage to kind of like retain staff and kind of keep them on board rather than them going to other companies? I know everyone has that problem. I mean, no one's perfect, are they? But how do you feel like as a company or just yourself, like you feel like you deal with it?
It's really, really difficult, I think, at the moment, because obviously supply and demand issues, and I don't think the whole time that I've been here I've ever come across such challenges in relation to recruitment. So the staff that you've got, you want to retain, but because there is such a big gap out there at the moment, the staff may look to work in other places. And I think staff leave, generally, it's not always about the money. A lot of people all about the money. I think if you're worth a certain amount, then the company should pay that from the get-go. It might be that they're generally dissatisfied with the company they work for, or it might be something around management. So if that is the issue, then obviously as a company you need to address that. In terms of our employee engagement, I think we pride ourselves in our training and development here in Sheffield.
I was literally about to say that, because it says I was going to mention training, but I know you guys train really well, so that's definitely a pointer for someone to want to stay, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, in the first 6 months, if you're an apprentice or a trainee, obviously you get your mentor initially, and you work with that person all the way throughout. And then for that trainee or apprentice, after months, we look at more bespoke training. Also from day one, we have like a training plan that's for 18 months.
Okay.
And also with our more qualified engineers, whether it will be a junior engineer or a senior engineer, we always do continuous professional development. And we do a lot, as you know, certificated training with various sort of training providers.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that a lot of people that I need to apply for jobs, whilst they're experienced, they might have certificated training.
Yeah.
Some of the clients that you work for actually want to see certificated training. It's part of their requirements. So as a company, if we're providing a service, you want someone to have that breadth and depth of experience that they might have gained on the job, but they might have done that for 20 years. Sometimes the clients want you to have that certification behind it. So we do pride ourselves on the training, and we obviously we train month on month. And I know you haven't been here for a while, but when you next visit us, you'll see that we've got a whole suite downstairs set up, and we want it to be like a training suite. We'll have So, you know, when you go to maybe a training centre, they've got all the alarm panels, CCTV.
Yeah. Control. You did have a little bit of that, I think, when I came, but it was only like a tiny bit. Yeah.
It's massive now. The whole room is taken over, and that's our next aim, to get somebody to be able to deliver, again, internal training, but look at how we can grow and how we can develop internally as well. And that's not only just for the engineers, because we don't want to forget about our support staff. And there's also staff within our industry that obviously want to either be a supervisor or a manager. And like I said, I know we're sort of 70 plus, so that might not seem massive to some people, but you've still got your career aspirations. So with that, we are looking at a supervisory management training for staff.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah,
that is good. Because I feel like people that get like progressed within, they kind of just get put into a management role, and they just don't really have much experience, and they're kind of just expected to know what to do, aren't they?
Exactly. It's like going back to what you said earlier. So if you've come in and you've got a manager that's never managed a member of staff in that way, this one is, if you want to be a manager or a supervisor, you're giving them skills to, you know, from the get-go. So they will learn stuff like, I don't know, leading people, managing people, building relationships, communication, operational management, all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And then they'll do a journal, they'll do part learning and then part on the job training. So it's a really good training, and we're hoping to get at least 4 people trained in the next 12 months.
Yeah, because you do like the apprenticeship side as well, don't you?
Yeah, and actually at the moment, the apprenticeship provider that we're looking at is Banham Academy. I'm sure you've probably heard of them.
Yeah, I have heard of them. Yeah,
I was really impressed. I've been speaking to Kevin and Lorraine, and you know, obviously, you know that in terms of the gender within the industry, I think they've probably got like 2% female in the security.
I was literally about to ask that question. How weird. Yeah.
So, you know, from an advert point of view, obviously we welcome applications from everyone.
Yeah.
But it'd be really good if we got some more females within the industry. And Banham Academy, what I specifically liked about them, they're working with NSI. And so they're trying to like bridge the industry's gender gap. And what they arranged in June is for a week-long course for females, which is actually all free. And it's to get the females in to look at stuff around the industry. So it's exactly the same sort of stuff. They do CCTV.
Yeah. What date is that in June? That down.
I think it's the 13th of June.
Okay. It's basically free for any female who wants to learn the industry to kind of have a week of a bit of a tester.
Yeah, and they get certification at the end of it. And at the end, they're hoping that they would be able to like do some diagnoses, rectify any faults, etc. But on the final day, as employees, you're invited to go, and then you can meet these people and then offer them an opportunity to work within your company.
Oh, that's so good.
And for us, because I'm at the moment trying to find 4+ apprentices stroke trainees, I'm going to be going up there on the final day and hope that there's quite a group that would be interested in working for the industry.
Yeah.
It's very dependent on location because, you know, we're based in Bexley Heath and not everyone wants to travel.
So where's Banham based? Are they based in London?
Yeah, West. I think they're sort of one step on from Clapham Junction train station.
Right, and then they have like women engineers. Well, they will have engineers pretty much in the southeast, is it?
Yeah. So their academy does, you know, the level 3 FSCS course, so it covers everything that you would want them to do. It's a 3-year course. But because they've recognised the gender gap in the industry and they're trying to do more to promote that, I think that's why they've offered up this week course.
Yeah.
And obviously from a security industry point of view, all we can do is obviously welcome applications from everybody within the, you know, outside, but also maybe stress that because there is underrepresentation, that we particularly welcome applicants from females, and it goes as far as to say that we would also guarantee females an interview. And I think sometimes if you have one female ambassador within the companies,
and if you're interviewing them, it's going to make them feel like there's a representation within the company already.
I mean, obviously with COVID, we've not been able to go out to any careers events, but again, I think it probably starts with education. They might not feel that it's an industry open to them because it is very male dominated.
Yeah.
And if you're there going, you know, we want applicants to apply, this is what we're all about, and you had a female engineer and they could also be at these recruitment events, it would be a real benefit. But I guess it's one step at a time. It's really hard to address the imbalance.
Because that was my next question, because obviously me and you obviously see it from like a CV point of view. You don't get many women CVs and stuff like that. Why do you think there is such an imbalance? Do you think it's just the fact that it's always been quite a male dominated industry?
Yeah, maybe it's just it's not advertised enough in terms of, and maybe it's the language around the adverts. Maybe they come across maybe more male dominated. Again, I think it's the language that you use. You know, maybe it is going to the careers events at school. You know, when they get to the end of their GCSEs, they might not want to do A levels. They may want to go into an 16, or they go into colleges when they're 18 and just offer it out there. And I guess it's just, you know, all that advertising outside externally to encourage people to apply. I think, you know, I've been here for I think 6 years, and in the whole time that I've been here, I think I've seen one female CV, and that candidate was so sought after that she did accept a role, sadly not with us, but I think where she accepted was more closer to where she lived.
Yeah,
and that's the only one I've seen.
Yeah, I'm the same. I can probably number the amount of CVs I've seen from women. I mean, in the management side, like we were speaking about this morning, there is a little bit more of like, if I see quite a few women like service managers or operations managers, but not so much on the technical side. It's more on the office management and people rather than the technical side of it. Yeah. Which I'd definitely like to see more of, and I know you would as well. Yeah. I think with the whole society just changing diversity wise as well. I think more women are going to be looking to go into this sort of things and feel more comfortable, because there's a lot more accepted now than there was before.
And I think us doing that course is a step in that right direction. You can elevate. So you might come in as X. That's not to say that you can't elevate through. Like if you say you're working in an office, why can't you go out and be that IT expert?
Yeah.
Operational manager. Again, you can learn skills as you go along. But again, if you put the courses in place, equip those people with the skills to develop, then they want to, again, when you come back to retention, they want to stay at your company because you're investing in them. We've got quite a diverse mix in the office. I'd say maybe 60-40 split, more female than male. To say that won't change. We've got more guys in the office than we had before. We only ever had one, and now we've got a health and safety. It was very male, and then we had a female, and now we've obviously got a male. So it's changing.
Yeah, and I think with when they're doing these week-long courses and stuff, they can see if it's something they actually want to do, because I think they're probably a bit worried if they go and do this job and it's not something they really want to do, they're going to not feel embarrassed, but maybe it's not something that they feel comfortable doing, if you get what I mean. And I think if you're working in a male-dominated area, you've got to be quite a strong character, because especially if you're on site, and there's going to be certain remarks still, isn't there, from people if they're not.
You might have a perception of what an engineer might be like. They might be gruff, old school, might give you a hard time. But there might be some.
Most people aren't like that if you really speak to them, are they?
No, and again, it's all about the perception. So like we do sometimes. I say, "Oh, why don't you get that person to come in and spend a day with us or 2 days with us?" Because then at least gives them the opportunity to find out what we're about.
Yeah.
So do they like the role that we've got on offer? Another avenue that people can go down.
Yeah, I think it's just getting out there to females that this industry is like an open industry, and you're not going to be discriminated, and we want you to come on board. And I think that week long progression plan and apprentice plan is a really good idea from Bannon, to be fair. And I hope are they advertising it quite a bit?
There's loads of press coverage on it, and I know when I actually spoke to Kevin, I was really interested because I watched one of their YouTube videos, and in the background, when they're doing the training and they're doing the boards, there was a female in the background. So I thought that was really interesting, and when it come on to topic, oh, and by the way, we're doing this course in June. And then I've had a conversation with Lorraine, who's the apprenticeship manager.
Yeah.
And she expanded a bit more on the course and said about coming down for the final day. Myself and our head of operations going to go down and find out.
So is this course for pretty much any there is open in terms of companies, for fire and security companies? Is it open to anyone, or is it
any female that wants to attend? It's free of charge, and it's a one week training course, and it's talent. That would be specifically aimed at female apprentices to get a basic understanding of what the security industry is about, CCTV, intruder and access control, and the fire safety systems, and the protection as well. So
in terms of going back to kind of like the retention side, and as to why people are leaving, why people are going out of places, what is the main reason? Because obviously you deal with kind of like the notices and employment. What is the main reason? I know from my point of view, there's quite a lot of different reasons than there was a couple of years back, but what are the main reasons why people leave jobs now?
People obviously tend to leave for various reasons. If return to work, the exit interviews I've done recently, some people want to go to bigger companies that maybe offer European travel, and obviously if they're moving because of money, that's obviously an issue that we'd need to look at internally, but I think that's an issue just across the piece. In that I think we're at a stage where engineers can dictate what they want, rather than say the industry average is X amount of money. But because there are so many vacancies and so few engineers to go around, they will perhaps now have 5 interviews and go, right, what's this one got on offer better than that one? I mean, in terms of benefits, from speaking to yourself and others, I think that we're quite competitive around our salary. You know, we pay sick pay, which I know some companies don't. I think our annual leave benefits are really good. We also have a employee assistance program, especially, you know, with the pandemic and, you know, the way the world was going. And when you look at the world, just generally, 1 in 4 people experience mental health issues in a year. So you've got to make sure that you've got teams to support anyone that might have, you know, mental. And again, that goes back to the managing, to make sure that managers have an open door policy. But then you've got Health Assured, which is a really good benefit, which we give out, and they it's a confidential service. I don't know if you've heard of them, Maddie, but
I think I have heard of them.
They help you deal with any personal or professional problems that might be affecting you at home or work or health and general. It's 24/7, 365 days a year.
Is it like almost like a phone? You phone them up.
This phone, podcast, they offer counselling, depression, anxiety, eating. There's podcasts about health and fitness. So, you know,
I think that's good for the, obviously going back to, obviously I know it's still male dominated, but not many men speak about them sort of things. So if they can have a telephone service that they can ring privately, confidential, and not have to speak about it to anyone, I think that's a good thing, with getting people to talk about stuff as well, isn't it?
And
it affects your work, doesn't it?
It does. And there's also obviously male health issues on there, and there'll be little podcasts or little tips of what we can do. Loads of information out there. So I again sent it out this week just to constantly remind staff it's there. You know, obviously it doesn't stop the one-to-one that they might want to have with their line manager, but again, sometimes you just want to log on and maybe go, oh, I was thinking about this, what's that? Because obviously we're not the health experts, and they can go onto the app and get some information.
That's definitely something that a lot of companies need to look at. And
they've got qualified nurses on hand to offer a range of medical advice.
No way, really? That is a really good service to have, to be fair, because that was going to be my next question, obviously, like how do you deal with like well-being in the workplace? But I can imagine as a company as well, yourselves are quite a close-knit company, so you kind of know when people are going through stuff outside and inside of work, don't you?
I think it's looking at well-being as a whole, but also looking at other things that might come under that, and that might be stuff like, I don't know, looking at social activities, participating in stuff that, like Tough Mudder, we're gonna, as a company, a few of us gonna, because we couldn't last year, signed ourselves up for.
I've done that one. It's good.
Well, I'm 51 years old, Maddie, as you know, and I'm not a natural runner. I think my husband would agree with that. I'll try my best to get round this course, but I'm hoping that there's a few younger ones that are going to help me shove me up over the.
I think it's hard anyway, because obviously it's in mud, and the mud I remember, it's just you can't really run anyway, because it's just like you're just trying to run in the mud, and it is a nightmare. But it's a laugh, and stuff like that builds a team up. Do you know what I mean? And that is the sort of thing.
And we do, and we haven't obviously because of COVID, but I know quite a lot of the engineers, they quite like football. So goals football, they were going there on a Thursday. And again, that's another thing they're going to start doing again.
Oh, nice,
So it's all little things like that. And obviously, you know, having your annual Christmas party, you know, barbecue, where all their family and friends can come along. And also, I think it's recognising your employees with little things, like obviously Staff Appreciation Day last week, International Women's Day tomorrow, you know, stuff like that. We do, again, looking at where we're short, we've got a referral bonus. So if our staff refer someone, they'll get a bonus.
That's good.
You know, that's a little financial incentive, and then they get an amount when they first refer the individual, and then after they've passed their probation, then they get another amount.
Oh, okay.
We also do this little thing in the office about telephone calls, because obviously customer service being the key, and we want to make sure we provide an excellent customer service. So part of that is making sure you answer your telephone. We've got sort of performance indicators that look at who answers the phone and how many times you've answered. So whoever's answered the phone the most that month, they get like a little gift, like an Amazon voucher.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah,
it is just the simple things though, isn't it? Even like just getting the coffee from Costa, like we was talking about this morning. Like I think everyone now, like we were speaking about it in here, like they're not worried about like necessarily money rewards, or like they just like this little stuff that kind of makes them aware that we know that you care and stuff like that, rather than the big stuff where, oh, it's nice, but it's not as personal stuff like that, is it?
Appreciated, and sometimes that might just appear please and thank you. Oh, by the way, Maddie, I really recognise what you've done today. Like you say,
even like a post-it note on there saying thank you for doing this. Do you know what I mean? It's just the stupid stuff where, and you don't think someone would care, but it would be, without being cliche, it is the simple stuff in life, and people they just want to feel appreciated, don't they?
Oh, absolutely.
So obviously my next question was going to be like, how has HR changed in terms of your role, and how do you think it's going to change in the future? Obviously, by me and you just speaking then, I think the mental health side has been in a big way, probably a lot within your role that you've had to look at, in terms of just thinking about how people feel in their role and in general and outside of work and stuff like that. Is there anything else in particular that you feel like has changed in the last couple of years?
I think that obviously the pandemic disruption to the workplace and looking at hybrid working, because there's so many roles now, maybe not on the engineering again, but you'll always have flexible working.
Yeah.
In terms of maybe some staff that were more office based that were working from home. So definitely I think that's here to stay, and it's how we adapt to that. And again, you know, like I said earlier, that might be reassessing the management skills and making sure that they with their training, that the workforce requires maybe a different level of support because they're working remotely. Reviewing your technology, because maybe some security companies might not have a HR database that's electronic, and they might be working on what I would maybe say more outdated paper files, so that when you're looking at HR, you're looking at it electronically, so you can do onboarding electronically. You're training, all that information's electronic. And then obviously when you're looking at maybe hybrid working, making sure you're reviewing all your policies to make sure they're all up to date. Yes, there's quite a lot.
Yeah, we've recently gone on, so we was on a electric HR app and website, but we've recently gone on to like a newer one, and it is so much better, especially like you said, if people like they can use it on their phones. And people can request it like late at night if they need to, if they're too busy in the day. So yeah, it's exactly stuff like that needs to be changed now, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think probably the pandemic taught us that, because if you were operating on a paper-based system, unfortunately we weren't, so we were lucky. You know, it would have been more challenging. Because obviously the app allows you to put your annual leave in, check your training, you know, check contact numbers, look on the calendar to see when your colleagues are off if you wanted to book time off.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's probably
different. And with the management side within like working from home as well, I think it's quite tricky if you're not working closely and you're not seeing them all the time. So there needs to be other procedures put in place to be able to manage people, doesn't there, as well?
Exactly, because again, if you're a company that's in a mindset that you have to do the standard Monday to Friday 9 to 5, and if you're not in the office you're not working, because people's attitudes will change, and you know, some may be more thinking you've got to be in the office Monday to Friday 9 to 5, but we know that, you know, for nearly 2 years we worked at home, the job still got done. People can work at home, and again, I think if you offer them that flexibility, they'll look at you like you are a company they want to work for, because we're cutting down on their travelling time, maybe, you know, cutting down on their cost for coming into work. I mean, parking's an absolute nightmare around here. So
I know.
you probably remember.
Yeah.
So again, driving around, even before you've got into the office, you're fed up because you've been driving around for 15 minutes to try and find a parking space. So we've not gone full still working from home. What we're doing is we're adopting a 3-day week. So they do alternate. So they do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at home. And then the following week they rotate it. So there's always an overlap on a Wednesday. But it's nice again. I think a lot of them felt really happy to come back to the workplace because they had seen each other, but via sort of virtually like we are now. But sometimes when you want to go and ask someone, it's easy just to go, they're over there on the desk. Oh, can you just answer me this question, rather than have to Microsoft Teams them or ring them up. But they also enjoy the working at home element. And, we've given everyone their laptops and phones, and we've equipped them with those products to be able to work from home. It'd be silly of us not to let them continue to do that. Obviously, a bit more challenging for an engineer if you want them to be on site. But the way the industry is working, again, with the, doing more stuff remotely, you get lots of engineers that are allowed to access the equipment remotely as well. I mean,
like the commissioning engineers and people that are actually programming it and stuff, they can do it on the laptop, can't they?
I mean, obviously, there's quite a lot where you need to obviously be physically present. But there's other roles that allow you to maybe have that flexibility as well.
I think that helps and goes back to the mental health side and that side as well, doesn't it? Because if you're if they can pick their child up from school or they can drop them off, they're seeing them just for an extra 15 minutes than they're not going to be seeing when they get back from school. They just have more time to themselves and stuff, don't they? Because that travel is for some people, depending on where you live and work, is a long time, isn't it, that you could get back, at least sometimes 2 hours a day.
I mean, we've got somebody here that moved during the pandemic and moved quite far away, but that doesn't stop them from being able to do their role. And again, you don't want to lose a really good member of staff because they live maybe 2 hours away. What can we do to retain that member of staff? Flexible, that knowledge and experience in the company, and allow them to work from home more. That their hours, because obviously flexible working is always there. People want to apply for it, but now I realise that we can be more adaptable.
This is going to be a bit of a cliche question. What is the favourite part of your job?
Well, I love people, so I do love dealing with people. Probably that has its pluses and its downsides, because I do tend to get pretty lonely, which is unfortunate. I think it's a satisfaction, when you've helped someone or you've given them some knowledge around, maybe it's to do with a discipline, they've never done a discipline before, or they weren't really sure how to maybe word something to a member of staff, and you've helped them. And then you've seen them grow, and then they've gone and done it again, and they've done it absolutely fine. So that's probably quite important for me.
And the second question is, what would you say are the biggest challenges in your job? You can say within the industry, but within your job.
I think for me, at the moment, is recruitment. It's been the absolute nightmare. Absolutely weak. I feel like interviewing loads of candidates, offering.
So the interviews are flowing. Like there's quite a few CVs and stuff out there, but it's just getting people that are committed. Really, I'm finding.
I think it's because of the supply and demand issue. They can, say, well, I've got 5 interviews. Optyma offer a really good salary, and they might be really good about it. For this other company, there is no on call, and they're nearer to where I want to be, or there's no travelling to London. So, a candidate, they can be more choosy. So I think that's making it really challenging.
I think companies need to look at it from like a general overall industry, and they need to say, this is what we're going to pay. Like, because I know you're pretty good with that. This is what we're going to pay. There's not it. But I think companies are so desperate, they then go higher up, and then they make it harder for every other company that's trying to recruit. There needs to be some sort of benchmark, doesn't there? I think, because it's just going to constantly just go up.
Definitely, but also that has a knock-on effect internally, because if somebody comes in on a higher salary, and one and speak about,
there's nothing worse than that. Nothing worse.
That then just has a negative effect internally, because it just uplifts people up more money internally as well, going, well, you've recruited someone for this even if they shouldn't know, and then you've got that wage increase internally, and that has a knock-on effect to the company.
Yeah, I think when people find that out, that definitely makes them want to leave, or that does get them frustrated, doesn't it? But yeah, I just think at the moment there is so many options out there for candidates, and they just don't know where to go. And sometimes I think they make the wrong decision because they think it's the best one for salary, or they think, I don't have to do no call out, but then they end up getting no overtime, no call out, and they're worse off. So I think
it depends on the nature of the role as well, because obviously from our rail department point of view, it's a physically demanding job, and they're out in all weather. So if it's sunny, they're out with their big PPE on. If it's really wintry and rainy and hailstones, are out with their PPE. And some people aren't attracted to that, because they might say, well, actually, I want to be a security systems engineer. I want to be in an inside building in a hospital, or a construction site, or wherever, a school. I don't want to be out on a railway platform in all weather. So again, I guess it depends on what the engineer is looking for and what roles each company has available at the time.
Yeah.
Because obviously the nature of our company, we have like little departments. So we've got the rail department that obviously look after rail, and we've got our ISO department that might look after hospitals, utilities, universities, and then obviously in the north we've also got rail and the Severn Trent Water. So it is very dependent on the individual. And I think in the Midlands, where before, I think you and I probably would get loads of candidates, even that's very limited.
The salaries up there have shot up a lot, and in terms of what people want as well, has shot up a lot. It used to be like that in the southeast, but I think now it's got kind of worse up there, because no matter where you are, I think it's the money is the same, and until you go up kind of north. I think the salaries are changing up there as well, which was not always the case, was it?
No. I think what you have to look at as a company, if you're employing someone as an engineer, whether they work in the north or the south, they're an engineer. So if you should pay them for their salary.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Because it's weird that people have it's different pay bracket, but obviously you have to look at, obviously London living standards are a bit more than up there, but I think like at the moment I just think everything's going up as well, isn't it, like bill wise and stuff like that.
And if you just look at petrol, I think when I was up in Coventry a couple of days ago, their petrol prices were more expensive, although ours is really high. Theirs was more expensive, so
really
some of the housing and stuff might be more affordable than some of the down south, but in terms of their fuel, their gas and electricity, that's all going up sort of the same.
Yeah, but that stuff that makes sense. Yeah, because it doesn't matter what area it is, you still need electricity and petrol and stuff like that, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we focus on the skills, as to see what skills they've got, how long they've, worked maybe with the industry, what skills they can bring to us, what we can get from them, and then look at their salary accordingly. So
yeah, but I think, like I said, hopefully the salaries will kind of take a peak soon, because at this point it is getting, not the Birmingham's not too bad, but like the southeast is getting ridiculous in terms of basic salaries. Like you're hearing like people on like 40k basics and they've got like 4 years experience or whatever. So hopefully it'll take like a peak for mine and your sake.
Yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed.
But thank you, it's been really nice chatting to you, and thanks to everyone who's watching and listening. We'll be doing next one in a couple of weeks. Thanks.